Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. I'm Dave Guerra. This is the Weekly Leader, another episode 4, if I'm correct. And it's episode 4. So welcome. This show is where I take 2 current events, I look at them, break them down, and put my leadership spin on them and my point of view. And then I present it to you. Then I take a leadership topic, an issue, a concern, something that's going on, and we break it down, and then I put my spin on it, walking leader spin on it, and we go from there. So without delay, let's get this show started. Okay, so the first one is it's in the news. Again, it's dealing with Ukraine, Russia, the whole 9 yards, all of that's going on. Is cyberattacks, preparing for cyberattacks. Folks, they're going to happen. It's not a matter of if they're going to happen, it's when they're going to happen and to what degree they're going to happen. So what are you doing to mitigate, to offset that? Are you updating all the necessary items in your network at home, personal network, your phone? Not accepting any spam, not opening up any attachments that arrive in emails you don't know about, because that's usually how they infiltrate in. That's how they get in, is you let them in. So ensure that you are taking precautions to avoid getting hit by cyber attacks. Now, of course, there's other ones, denial of service, where the servers are all being hit at the same time from different addresses, and the server can't keep up with the request. So it slows things down. So as I said, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And this applies to everything else in life. Leaders, you, whether it's home, at work, organization, personal, professional, need to ensure that everybody you're responsible for is aware of what to do, and keep them informed of what's going on and what things they can take, things they can do now to take and relieve the effects of a cyber attack, because it's going to happen. It's just a matter of time. It really, truly is. And if you don't know the answers, there are professionals out there. Find the right professional and get them on board and have them share that information with your team. Leaders, again, sharing that information now is going to save and help, maybe not prevent data loss, but what to do on the event there is data loss. How to be sure we're doing our backups, things like that. And I'm getting a little technical here, but what I'm getting to is June 1st. What I'm getting to is the spring thaw. What I'm getting to is the winter weather. What I'm talking about is not just the man-made disasters, but I'm talking about natural disasters, and they're going to occur. They're going to happen. And it's crazy in the sense that people act like they didn't know it was going to happen. They assumed it was never going to happen, but yet historically, year after year after year, after the winter comes the spring thaw. And all that snow, and I don't want to hear anything about climate change, because again, it still snows in the winter, and it snows a lot. And eventually that snow is going to melt, and that snow is going to run off into the creeks, which will run off into the streams, which will run off into rivers, which will eventually run off to the sea. But along the way, it's going to pass these places. And if they're not prepared, or historically they flood, and I know I've got family members, extended family members, that are in those areas that are flood prone, and every year without fail, they act surprised that it flooded. Come on, seriously, there's no need for that. You know it's going to happen, prepare for that. I live on the Gulf Coast. Every year I prepare for hurricanes, whether one hits here or not. Luckily, we've been lucky, knock on wood, but eventually the day's going to come that another one's going to land here. And when it is, I hope I'm ready. But I'm doing stuff now to prepare for it. I have my water supply, I have my food supply, I have my fuel supply. Leaders, share that with your team members. Have them ready wherever you are geographically on the planet. Some places are more apt for typhoons. That'll happen. Some places are apt to those and if I pronounce this wrong, haboobs, the sandstorms as they blow across. Again, they're going to happen, and there's a certain time of the year that it's more apt, more prone to happen. So ensure that you're talking to your team. Ensure you're sharing with your peers, your coworkers, your colleagues, your family, extended family, because when that time comes, they don't need to be surprised. They don't need to be surprised, but what they do need to be is they need to be prepared, because it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Okay, situation number 2. It's in the news, and it's again dealing with Ukraine, Russia, the whole 9 yards, and the Russian invasion of Ukraine and the war in Ukraine, or the Ukraine crisis. And it's about a small little town called Odessa. And they say the way to Kiev, or to Kiev, is through Odessa. Well, that town, it's not a little town, it's actually a quite big city, has been shelled continuously. Artillery shell, rocket strikes, Katyusha rockets, artillery pieces, bombs, shelled continuously for 2 weeks. And guess what? 2 weeks. And guess what? That city has not fallen. So the topic here is resiliency. Those people get knocked down, they get back up again. Like the song goes, I get knocked down, I get back up again. They're resilient, and they're fighting for their city. And they are working to ensure that if it ever does get taken, they're going to go down fighting. That's resiliency. That's the getting back up again. And that's we're living through this awesome time. It's terrible what's happening, but it's also delivering all these great examples of resiliency, of people just saying, you know what, enough's enough. They're not coming into my country. They're not taking my land. They're not taking our country. And they're standing up. No matter what they did prior to this invasion, how they behaved, what side they stood on, they're all united as one nation, and they're fighting to prevent this. Those that are there still fighting. Now, obviously, some people had to go, and that's fine. There's no one's criticizing those that had to go. It's the resiliency of saying, hey, we're not going to take it. We're not going to flip and roll over and just play, here, have at it, and you bring the best. No, it's not. Because for one, he's not promising anything as he rolls through the countryside. He's not promising to those he's already passed through. There is none of that, because there isn't. It's all so uncertain. He knows that. He realizes that fact. The issue here is what happens on the other side. The issue here is what happens in the meantime, before they get to the other side. The issue here is resiliency, and these people are great examples of resiliency. If you ever need a definition of resiliency, look to the Ukrainian people and what they're doing, the ones that are there, boots on the ground, their own boots on the ground. Doesn't matter how old they are, how young they are, they're there fighting for their country, and they're getting knocked down, but yet they get back up again, even though the rest of the world is trying to politically resolve this situation, and helping those that are seeking the refuge, helping those that have already come across, helping those that are still behind. But in the end, it's the resiliency of these people of being able to get beaten, hit, day in, day out. The uncertainty is that whistle of that shell that's whistling overhead. Does that have my name on it? But yet they're going to get back up again and take care of business. So I wish them good luck. I wish, we could do more. But again, that's for a different story. That's for a different time. In the meantime, we're doing what we can and how we can. And kudos to the Ukrainian people for being shining examples of resiliency. Okay, the next one is, now we're going to talk about a topic, a leadership concern, leadership issue, and it's accountability. And everyone has a different definition of accountability. How are we held accountable for what we do? Really, self-leadership begins at that point, begins at accountability. It's holding yourself accountable. To what degree do you hold yourself accountable? Now, when we're young, dumb, stupid, that kind of goes out the window because we're still learning. But you know what? At a certain point in life, that's enough. You become a parent. Guess what? The nonsense has to stop. You bring on a life partner, you married, a spouse. Guess what? That nonsense has to stop. Unless, your partner is also nonsensical. But that's beside the point. The accountability is that when you're responsible, when you now have responsibilities, not just to yourself, but to others, whether at home or at work, then guess what? It's that time. That time has come, and you now have to ensure that you hold yourself accountable first. Holding others accountable. You got to, like I said, you got to hold yourself accountable first, because if the intention is you're now responsible, you're going to be holding others accountable. It has to begin with you, because again, as a leader, it's all about leading by example. And if you're not holding yourself accountable, how dare you even consider the idea of holding others accountable? Now, it'll happen. There'll be situations in your life when you're going to have to say, I've got to hold this person accountable. Doesn't matter. It's at home or at work, wherever it is. And if you were not prepared to hold yourself accountable to the same standards you're holding others, then guess what? Something's off, something's wrong, and you don't even begin to hold anybody accountable, because they're going to continue doing it because they don't see you doing it. They don't see you taking the initiative. You have to be visible. You have to ensure that what you're doing is in line with what you believe. It's in line with what you're going to hold others accountable to. And if you fail to do that, rest assured, it's going to bite you in the backside. I guarantee it. And that's just the way it is. So when it comes to accountability, begin with you. Let it emulate you. Let it permeate through you. Let it become you. You become it. It becomes you. That accountability is your brand. That's who you are. You hold yourself accountable. That's part of your brand. If you need a brand, that's part of your brand. You will hold yourself accountable first. You will always be your toughest critic. We know that. That's just who we are. That's just how it is. Why? Because we have a sense of pride in what we're doing. We have a sense of, we owe it to everybody that if I'm going to say, well, we're going to do this, I better be able to do this. I can't just that do as I say, not as I do, like I mentioned a couple of episodes ago. That doesn't fly. That does not fly. And again, if you're prepared to hold others accountable, you better be already holding yourself accountable and setting that standard. Because when people look back, it's like, who does he think he is trying to hold me accountable? And then they realize, oh, wait a minute, he's already at that standard or exceeding that standard. And then there's no argument there, because they cannot argue with you because they themselves recognize they are not at that standard. They're not achieving that goal. They are acting in a manner and performing at a level and behaving at a well, they're just behaving. They're not behaving to any kind of standard. They're not subscribing to any kind of standard, and that behavior needs to be held accountable. So again, if you're behaving the same way, then you can't say, oh, you got to act better than this. But you yourself are not acting better than that. You yourself are still living in that mindset of, well, I'm in this position in life, and because I have this position in life, or I have this initials after my name, I can behave any way I want because, damn it, I've achieved that level in life. And sure, yeah, why not? No one's going to doubt you. You can choose to behave however you want. But when it comes time to holding other people accountable, guess what? It's not going to fly. All right, everybody. We reached the end of this episode of Weekly Leader number 4. And again, I want to thank you for stopping by. I want to thank you for watching. If you have any comments, questions, put them down below in the the comments section. Plenty of room to write. Give me a thumbs up if you like this episode. And don't forget to like and subscribe. That's there. Again, it's a real simple process. And don't forget, you can also follow me on all my social media. There we go. It's up. It's up here, right up here. And all my social media, there it is, as well as it's down at the bottom here in the show notes. So again, I would like for you to visit, like, subscribe. Let me know you saw the show. What do you think of the show? And if you have any ideas, by all means, I encourage the exchange of ideas and information at all times. Let me know what's going on. Let me know what you're thinking. I thank you for your time. I'm Dave Guerra. This is the Weekly Leader. Until next week, take care.